And Pete, let's move over to Aston Villa. They're looking at Manchester United talent Harry Amos, who's one of the biggest talents in the academy at the moment. Talked about a lot, featured with them in preseason. Do you think he can make a shock move for more playing time to Aston Villa and kind of fill in at that left back, a role that they've obviously been looking at over the past few years?
Yeah, it would come as a huge surprise if Manchester United were willing to let Harry Amos leave the club. They worked
Would
really
that be
hard
an
to sign him.
FFP? Would that be an FFP PSR type move that we've seen last summer?
Yeah, the potential that could be it. Obviously, to get a homegrown player, they might earn a lot of money from him as well. As you said, very highly rated young player. Still only 17, so he has got a lot to prove still as well. But yeah, he did well for United in pre-season. We know Villa are an ambitious club, always looking to progress under Unai Emery, and they've got a very good recruitment team there at Villa Park as well. So their interest probably doesn't come as a surprise that they are keeping tabs on Harry Amas. I thought myself Amas might have had a chance at left back for United, especially this season when they've had so many problems at left back with Luke Shaw out injured, Terrell Malacia working his way back to fitness, and then they've used Dallo and Mazzarari at left back this season. So maybe Amas himself will be thinking his pathway to first team football could be blocked at Old Trafford, but I don't see United looking to sell him unless it's a big offer from an Aston Villa. United see him as being a long term left back option there, and obviously we've now got Ruben Amorim in there at Man United. Who's to say that he might have a look at Amas in training and give him his chance, because he does like to play with wing backs, and Harry Amas is probably well equipped to fit in that role as well. So yeah, again, I would be very surprised if United would even consider selling Amas, especially to a Premier League rival like Villa.
And you mentioned, obviously, Paul, how that could be a PSR move. But in my opinion, those PSR moves have really been for kind of not the biggest talents in the academy, right? A lot of the time we've seen the clubs kind of get these fees for players who have made 2-3 appearances in the last year or something, who, kind of aged out of the academy. But as Pete mentioned, Amos is probably one of the biggest prospects at United's academy, and almost, on the fringes of the first team. So I think this move would be potentially even more shocking for if he were to make that move to Aston Villa and show that there maybe isn't a pathway from the academy for Manchester United.
I don't think it happens. It just doesn't happen. A club like Manchester United, the size and stature of the club, their brightest young starlet coming out of the academy, new manager coming in, you look at the development path for players. This, I don't know where the stories come from. There's obviously, it's come from somewhere, but actually somebody like Amas, it's very, very unlikely at 17 that Manchester United are going to do any type of deal with another Premier League club for a player that they rate so highly. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's made a league start for Manchester United yet. But he's a top quality player with huge potential. And a club like Manchester United, the size and the global pull that they've got, they don't sell players like that.
No, they don't. And Kieran Dewsbury-Hall actually is one of those players who was maybe involved in some sort of PSR move this summer, but now being linked with Aston Villa to come into the midfield and potentially help them with a loan-to-buy signing maybe this January. Do you think that would be a good fit?
But what has he made? 3 league appearances since his move from Leicester. It looked like it was one of Enzo Maresca's signings, taking his best player from last year with him, and you expected him to fit in. But we talk about Chelsea all the time, don't we? Look at the amount of players they've got, and we can scrutinise it and analyse Chelsea, but actually what he's done is getting it right. And Kieran Dewsbury-Hall hasn't been a part of what they've been doing recently. So listen, it's still it's in its infancy. His Chelsea career has only just started. Does he sit there? Does he sit it through? Does he trust in his manager that he's been with before? And is his manager talking to him on a daily basis, saying, "Look, you just got to bide your time. You are part of my long-term plans. You are going to come into this." Or if he's getting frozen out, is he looking elsewhere? I don't suspect there'll be a shortage of players at Chelsea looking to move on because of the amount of players that they've got. And he's one of them. I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised at the lack of opportunity that he's had in the Premier League.
I just don't see why would Chelsea strengthen Aston Villa. They're a top 4 rival in the race for the Champions League. So as much as Dewsbury Hall's not been playing, I'm sure he will get opportunities between now and the rest of the season. He's been playing in the Conference League, obviously with Chelsea leaving out a number of their first team stars in that competition, but I still think, like Paul says, his Chelsea career is in its infancy. I'm sure he still has a role to play because Enzo Maresca worked so hard to sign him in the first place. I just don't think he'll be willing to get rid of him so quickly.
And Diego Llorente, another one with Premier League experience, obviously was at Leeds, was all right, wasn't top of the game, but now with a move rumored back to the Premier League to add a centre back to Villa's ranks, a position they look to strengthen in the summer. Do you think this is a likely move, Pete?
Again, it's a surprise link to me. I'm sure it's probably come from the Spanish links we've got with Unai Emery as coach and Monchi being the director of football at Villa. They'll be well aware of Diego Llorente. Some Leeds fans I know really rated Diego Llorente during his time at Elland Road. Was brought in by Marcelo Bielsa. Obviously, he moved on in the wake of Leeds' relegation from the Premier League. But when he was fit, he was a good performer for them, and he's done really well at Roma. Now ended up going to Real Betis in the summer, and he's started life well in Spain, and he was part of that Spain squad that won the Euros as well. So he's a top player. Villa, I think we all know that they are in the market for a centre back. I don't think Unai Emery is that sure on Diego Carlos, who was strongly linked with a move to Fulham in the summer, but the move didn't end up happening. Tyrone Mings is back fit now again, which is a bonus for Aston Villa, but I think Emery in an ideal world would bring in another centre half just to bolster the squad as they go for another top four finish, and they've got Champions League football as well, so he will want a bigger squad. But the Llorente one, I think it'll be a hard deal to do considering he only joined Betis in the summer and he's on a long-term contract as well. But I can see why the links are there because he's got previous Premier League experience, and the Spanish contingent at Villa will be well aware of him.